I honestly feel like I could walk out of the building tonight and not walk back tomorrow. And I would be so embarrassed about that and so sad. If you're feeling burnout in the classroom, you can get to the other side of it. But something has to change. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting something different to happen. I felt at the end of every day like I wasn't even doing a good job. Like on my best days, I felt like I was getting 50% of what I should be accomplishing done.
Hey teachers, here's a stat that just might blow your mind. The average teacher processes between 1,000 and 1,500 data points a day, all while trying to track 27 human beings 6 times a day. But here's a twist. What if there was some technology that could actually help you think less and teach better? Would you want that? Well, if we haven't met yet, my name is John, and this is Teacher Talk, and this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Maria Anderson, and she is here to tell us how we can think less and teach better. So, Doc, I'm wondering, what does it actually mean to process 1,000 to 1,500 data points per day?
Teachers do something that is truly ridiculous, and I doubt that there are any other professions that have to do this. We track all the data in our heads while we teach because we don't have any other choice. And that data burden has gotten heavier and heavier over the last couple of decades. So let me just walk you through what that looks like. If you're a teacher listening to this, of course you already know, but
Absolutely.
it's good to be reminded about how
Mhm.
ridiculous this is. We have to know all of the students' names
Right.
and faces and traits about them that help us to teach them. We keep track of attendance every day. We're not just keeping track of attendance, we're also keeping track of attendance as kids come in late, leave,
That's right.
go out to the bathroom, come back, how long were they gone? Like all of that data is in our heads.
Yes.
We're warning kids and trying to make sure that we abide by our own consequences for actions that they take in class, which means we're counting every time we warn. How many warnings was that? How many warnings was that? How many warnings was that? But also, we're supposed to praise 4 times more than we teach. So we're also counting how many times we praised against how many times we warned. We're also keeping track of the number of times people have participated in class. Am I calling on this kid too much? Who have I not called on at all? Have I called on everybody? Has everybody contributed? Has everybody had a chance to talk today? So we're keeping track of that data too. Then there's all the reminders you give yourself while you teach, like, oh,
Mhm.
I need to remember to grade this paper for the student who was absent. And these 3 kids
Absolutely.
missed the quiz yesterday and they need to have it. And so we're keeping track of all the data related to past absences. Oh, by the way, there's also the IEPs. So which kids need special care today because of the activity we're doing? Which of the kids can't read very well because they don't speak English yet and they need
Mhm.
extra? That's all data we're tracking in every single class. And we're doing it on the fly. By the way, I didn't mention the fact that we actually have to teach something that day too, right?
Yes, we
It's
do.
actually surprising we get to that given all the other things we're doing. This data burden is just a constant cognitive exhaustion that teachers face. We get decision fatigue, we get data fatigue, if there is
Yes.
such a thing as data fatigue. And the truth is, we don't actually have to remember all that data anymore.
So, Doc, you talked about decision fatigue, and absolutely, it can be 100% debilitating to the point to where you simply can't make another decision, even when you go home trying to figure out how to or what to cook for supper or how to take care of things at home or how to spend time with your kids. So, I'm wondering, have you ever struggled with burnout?
Yeah, actually, last year when I was teaching, I teach middle school and high school, and I had 4 preps that were completely different. So I was teaching AP Calculus. I was teaching and all of those kids had to also complete 11th grade math at the same time. So I was managing kind of like 2 loads there. I was teaching ACT Math Prep, which was not 1 section, but 3 sections
Mm,
of kids. So 60 kids who all needed differentiated instruction based on their level.
that's right.
I was teaching entrepreneurship to business students, completely different format, completely different class. And by the way, it was also taught through the community college. So I had to manage that too. And then I was teaching middle schoolers a class called Technology and Society, which is like a mix of science and engineering and history.
Hmm.
And I just started to get more and more tired as the semester progressed. And I got to that point where that teachers feel with burnout, where they think, I honestly feel like I could walk out of the building tonight and not walk back tomorrow. And I would be so embarrassed about that and so sad. I've taught for a long time, like,
Hmm.
but I could also see how we get to that point because we're just so tired. And I felt at the end of every day like I wasn't even doing a good job. Like on my best days, I felt like I was getting 50% of what I should be accomplishing done.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of things I could have done to help my own situation. Like if I had had the energy to send emails to a couple parents, I might have lowered behavior issues in the classroom. If I had had time to send, what did we do in class today to all the absent students,
Hmm.
I might have been able to catch some of them up faster. But the truth is at the end of these days, you don't have any energy left. You're so tired. You can't even remember what happened during the day. Like you'd like to write a summary of what happened in class, but you honestly can't remember what happened in that class. That class was 6 hours ago, and you've encountered 1,200 data points since then, right? And
Yep.
so I was just completely to the end of my ability to teach.
So, how much of your own experience goes into the development of Socrate? Is it a labor, a passion of love, or is it just your love for teachers, or is it, hey, I suffered this myself, and I know that there are hundreds of thousands of other teachers that are struggling as well.
It's yes to all of those.
Mm,
So during that time when I was feeling burnout, I had one key advantage I think that not a lot of teachers have, which is that I have previously built an edtech company. When I sold my last company, all I wanted to do was go back to being in a classroom, and that's what I did.
mhm.
So I chose to go back to being a teacher. And I made that choice very intentionally. I don't have the same financial pressures as other teachers do because of that. And I thought, well, this is a really interesting problem I'm experiencing. It's one that we know is happening nationwide to teachers. And if I can figure out why I'm feeling this way and something to do about it, then we could help all teachers, right? So I started to pay attention to what the problem actually was. And I
Yeah.
think that, there is absolutely the problem of teachers just not being paid enough, um, which I can't do anything about, unfortunately. So I kind of skipped over that one and went to what else is going on here. If you're a legislator listening to this, let me just tell you that teachers aren't getting paid enough. And those burdens you're putting on teachers because they cannot fix the car they need to go to school, they cannot pay for childcare to go out on a date on the weekend, they cannot afford the
No.
classroom supplies you're
Mm.
making them buy, that is a travesty and that should be solved.
I,
I
you know,
just
I
can't
don't
solve
know.
that.
I don't know if there's any legislators listening to it, but I absolutely hope so because you really did hit the nail on the head. It's not that money makes all the pressures go away, but money gives us the opportunity to get away, to not have to worry about what we're going to have to pay, the ability to maybe hire a babysitter so that we can go out with our spouse or significant other. So there are some advantages to having a higher pay level.
Just a
Plus,
reasonable salary.
just a reasonable salary. We talk about Florida. I'm not sure what it is in Arizona or actually you're in Utah. I'm not sure what it is in Utah, but 47.5 is the beginning teacher salary here. But the $50,000 student loan debt that is average that the teacher carries. I'm not a math teacher, but those don't add up. And I can see where the pressure's at on that.
Yeah. So that's a real issue with burnout. And I don't want to discount that at all. It just wasn't a problem I could solve.
Mhm.
So the two I came up with that did turn out to be problems I could solve were first the cognitive exhaustion of the day,
Mhm.
all of that tracking of all of that data.
Mhm.
Our brains are exhausted all the time from it. And we're humans. We're not designed. We're not computers. We're not designed to track that much data.
Mhm.
And so we are doing a job that is designed now to be completely exhausting. And then the second problem is that at the end of the day, when you should be able to like take a breath and reflect on your day and get a few tasks done to make next day go smoother, you actually can't. Because one, you can't remember the data.
Mhm.
And two, you're too exhausted to deal with it, even if you could remember it. And so you like have this failure at the end of the day that makes you feel like you can't even do the job. And so what you start to do is go down this spiral, this kind of like doom spiral. It's like a doom scroll, but it's like a teacher doom spiral where you're
Right.
like, I exhaust myself the entire day to feel like I can't even do the job at the end of the day. Repeat, repeat. for
So
kids.
what do you think this cycle that you just described, what does that do to teacher morale?
Well, if you feel like you can't do like teachers are very passionate about what they do, right? They're not in it for the money. They're in it because they want to help students change lives, be an inspiration, like help students to see their own potential. They're in it for that, right? And when you feel like a failure at that at the end of every day, then you can't figure out why you're doing the job anymore. And so I think it's deadly for teacher morale. It's why we're seeing teachers quit. Because if the job is making you unhappy and it doesn't pay well, well, then what's the point? Right.
Absolutely right.
And so what I want is for teachers to have less cognitive exhaustion in the day and a great end of day experience where they
Mhm.
feel like they can be on top of things. They can have a positive reflection on how the day went and go home feeling that instead.
Yeah, instead of going home and try to mentally work back through the day and figure out what's going on, what needs to be done for tomorrow. I know that years ago I struggled with that. It was so much. It was like my brain got caught on a hamster wheel, and I would
Mhm.
try to go to sleep, and I could fall asleep, but I could not stay asleep because I would literally wake up with the thoughts of, maybe a poor interaction with a parent or a bad interaction with a student or the dread of a meeting that's coming tomorrow and I have no idea what's going to happen. So, with that being said, I'm not sure I did a very good job here. You developed an AI device called Socrate. So let's try to get practical. How does that actually work? What does it look like, and how does it help a teacher during the school day?
So the key insight for developing Socrate was when I realized that all of that data we're managing during the day, we say almost all of it out loud. We say it out loud when we do our attendance. We say it out loud when we warn or praise kids. We say it out loud when we talk about changing assignments. We even remind ourselves to do things out loud as teachers. We everybody who's a teacher on this call or on this is listening to this podcast knows that we do this out loud. You say like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I promise I'll remember to grade that assignment tonight. Oh, I have to make copies. I'll do that today and I'll get back to you tomorrow," right? Well, if we say all the data out loud, we actually have the technology now to collect that data from your voice.
Yes,
We just need to do it safely because we're in a classroom environment, right?
that's right.
And so I started talking to some engineers I know, and we realized that there was a way to do it safely and that we could just, put a mic on you so that we're listening to you while you teach. We're listening to you. We're not listening to your classroom. We're listening to you while you teach and grabbing the data out of your voice and giving it back to you. And so all of the things you do in class, you don't have to remember anymore. And so at the end of the class, you get back like a list of the students you've warned and praised, a list of your attendance data that you said out loud in case you forgot to put it into a system. There it is. Um, a summary of your class, which includes things like any assignment changes you made during the class, because we often will make a change to something on the fly. We'll realize, oh, our directions weren't clear enough. We'll make them clearer in class, like things like that, right? Um, we'll let you know what content you taught so that when you can't remember, if you're lucky enough to teach 3 or 4 sections of something, we all know those sections fall off of each other, and then you can't remember, "What did I do in that section? Where did I leave off?" Right? Like, that all comes back to you in the class summary, so you know exactly where you've left off in classes and what activities you did in those classes. Um, so we're becoming kind of a second brain for you, which means oh, and by the way, we don't actually stop there. We try to give you and we're gonna continue to do that. We're gonna give you as much of the task as we can as we grow. So, for example, right now with that praise and warning data, we can use AI to write you like an email you can send to a parent, to the special ed teacher, to the principal, whoever it needs to go to, about what the behavior was or what the praises were about. Because we have it right from your voice. You said it out loud. And so, for example, at the end, I had a student who was uh, disrupting a simulation we did this week in class.
Mhm.
Has an IEP, he was associated with that. And at the end of class, because of the number of times I had interacted with him about this, I had a lovely narrative in an email about exactly what happened. And I could just send it right on to special education. And they said, "This is great. We know exactly what to talk to him about. We'll work on that tomorrow." And I didn't
So,
have to do any extra work.
Socrate then took your words that you said to the student and then translated them into an email that you didn't have to write. All you had to do is click send. And that becomes data then for your ESE department
Correct.
that is working with that student,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
And you didn't have to think a thing about it. All you had to do is do it in real time, go
The way
back.
we normally do.
That's right. We do everything in real time, but typically we have to do things in real time. And then, if we're not carrying a notebook or something, then we got to go back and try to figure it out. We get the facts wrong, or, we misunderstand, or we get them not in the
Or even
order in which
we
things
just put too
happen.
much emotion into that
But
email.
yes, that's
Right?
exactly right. We get
And the beautiful thing about having these written for you is they're very neutral and fair, and they
mhm,
state exactly what happened. They're not using your exact words, by the way, they're just summarizing what happened, right? But in a way
absolutely.
that lists the actual events. And then it always suggests, like, here's what you can do to help at the end. And so it's giving you that really neutrally worded email to send out, and I don't wanna just focus on the negatives. We also will write praise emails to send
Mhm,
to parents, and I'll
sure.
tell you what, parents love getting
They
an
do.
email from a teacher that talks about how great their kid was in class today, and we're so exhausted, we, like, never get to send these, but let
Mhm,
me tell you, there's nothing more fun than waking up in the morning and having responses from parents that say, like, "Oh, we were so happy to get this. We just want you to
mhm,
know that
sure.
my son talks about your class all the time, and we really love hearing what he's learning," right? Like,
Right,
you won't get those responses from parents unless you send out some of these things, right? And those are lovely interactions to have. And so we want you to have both the help with dealing with the behavior
right.
issues,
Uh-huh.
which are real, right?
They are real.
And the joy of hearing back from some parents about the praises you were able to send. And so, yeah, we just wanna get you to that end of day experience that's a good experience, and one of the things that's been really fun to hear from we're now in several schools, with, like, full-time use, but I wanna tell you that
Mhm,
if you're listening to this and you are, like, intrigued, we do have a way that you can try out Socrate with one of your classes, and I always encourage you to pick the class that's driving you the most crazy, because we've heard time after time from teachers that once they start using Socrate with that class turns around, and, like, 4 weeks later, it's a different class. Like, just being able to keep track of it and the students knowing that you can keep track of it and that you can actually close the loop on some of these things turns the class around. So you can try it with one class for free. Just go to our website and click where it says try it. So we're doing this in several schools. We hear from teachers that their brains are calmer during the day. And when
uh,
you can just warn students who are irritating other students or irritating you, when you can warn them and let it go, it's a
mhm,
different experience than
mhm.
warning and counting, right? And you're able to focus more on the praise because suddenly you've freed up brain space to do that, which also helps turn the class around, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
so much of this is intertwined, and you can't solve all the problems until you can kind of tackle them all at once. And so that's what we're trying to do here is help teachers to really tackle this all at once.
Okay, so I want to make sure in a couple questions. Number one, I heard you say it's safe, so I assume that means that you're FERPA compliant, or at least in the process of being FERPA compliant.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that you made a very interesting statement, is that at the end of the day, this summarizes what actually happened in the class,
Yep.
not what we believe happened in the class, because sometimes those are two different things. And if I heard you right, when you know what actually happened in the class, then as a teacher, you can make the necessary adjustments going forward that actually turns your class in a different direction. Is that what you were trying to communicate?
Yeah, yeah, and, one of the things that teachers have said, we were actually really surprised by how much teachers love the class summaries, but I think it's a validation of the teacher feels validated by the class summaries. We sometimes focus so much on all the things that went wrong in class
Hmm.
because that's what humans are designed to do. Unfortunately, we focus on the negatives, not the positives, right? You got to have 5 positives to outweigh a
Right.
negative, right?
Apparently, we like negative stuff quite a bit.
And so a lot of teachers have said, when I look at that class summary, I remember that I did actually teach something today, right? Like
Hmm.
can see all the things I taught. And that gives me like assurance that I am actually teaching things in class, because we get so caught up in the problems and the things that went wrong that we forget the things that we
Hmm.
did right. And so that does act as a validation. But let's talk about the security a little bit, because I know that the
Yes,
first thing that comes up for teachers is they're like,
absolutely.
how can this be legal? How can this be allowed? Like, is it FERPA compliant? So let's talk about that first. So first, I can assure you that we have written very strict privacy policies about what we will do with the data. We will not sell the data. We will not sell the student data. We will not sell the teacher data. We do have to comply with all FERPA laws because we do hold student PII. We hold the first names of your students and
Hmm.
behavior records for those students. So, of course, we have to comply with all of the same FERPA standards as everybody else in the industry. We use industry standard single sign on through Google. We
Hmm.
have multi layered security, including firewalls, DDoS protection, encryption. We use multi tenant separation of accounts. So each school is separated into different databases by
Hmm.
the data record, the ID of the student. We are private by default. We have no audio recordings of classes, none.
Right.
We stream your class live and collect the data out of your voice as it goes by us, but we do not save the audio files at all. So they stream by, we grab the data out of your voice, and the audio files disappear. We are not actually recording the classroom. We are just collecting the data from your voice. We are designed to do it from the teacher's voice. The mic follows you around the room. It does not sit in the center of your classroom collecting student data. We have things in the platform to protect the data even more. For example, when we send behavior data to an LLM or an AI system to write that email, we actually anonymize all the names in it before we send it.
Hmm.
So when the AI gets the data, it does not know who the student was. It just knows that these are the warnings, write an email appropriate for it, comes back to us, and then we put the names back in for you. So that's better security than most of the AI systems you use right now. We also allow a teacher at any time, if they decide they do not want a record of that class, we have a button in the platform where they can delete the class session, all the data related to it, the summaries, the warnings, the praises, all the data. It's your choice. It was always the teacher's choice to press start and stop. And therefore, in our opinion, it is always the teacher's choice about retaining the data. Now, what we've heard from teachers is that this data has their back. It always has their back.
Hmm.
When they
So
talk
that
to a
was
parent and the parent says, you're just warning my kid and not all the kids in the class, the data has your
ah,
back.
there it
It
is.
shows.
Here it
You
is.
warned 12 kids that day,
That's
not
right.
just that kid, right?
Right.
When a kid says, you never told us there was going to be a quiz, the data has your back. It shows that on Monday you told them there was going to be a
Hmm.
quiz, and on Tuesday you told them, and on Wednesday you told them, and on Thursday you told them, and Friday when you gave the quiz, you had told them 4 times,
That's right.
right? And so when you feel like you might be going crazy, the data has your back. It tells you exactly what happened, right? And so, we're doing everything we can to be as safe for teachers as we can, to safeguard the student data in industry standard ways, right? We're a very young company. We're like 10 months old right now,
Hmm.
and we have a working product that you can use. But that means we're also in process on certifications from like seals of approval. So we
Hmm.
are in process on those, but they do take a few months to get through. So, but we already have the security in place. We just have to
So one of
get
the
the
things
seals.
that you said is that Socrate has the teacher's back. All right.
Hmm.
So whenever I think about this, the number one thing that comes to mind is that the principal wants to come and look at the data and then tries to use the data against the teacher. Is that something a principal could do, or is it again at the discretion of the teacher?
So it's at the discretion of the teacher. The principal does not have direct access to the data.
Good.
The teacher has the data. If the principal would like to see it, they can come talk to the teacher and say, "Can I see the data?" Right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
again, the teacher actually has control over whether the data is even saved. Right?
Right.
So we will in the future do some things to make sure that other staff at the school can see data, but it's more data associated with a student than it's data associated with a classroom. So, for example, I would like us to have a future dashboard that would allow a special education teacher to see the data associated with the students that they
Hmm.
manage. What that means is that the like, for example, those class summaries would be incredibly valuable to a special ed teacher who's working with a student to get caught up, to stay on track, things like
Sure
that,
would.
right? Right now that teacher has to come to you, the general teacher, and
Hmm.
say, "Can you tell me what you did in class so I can catch the kid up?" But imagine a world where that special education teacher can click on the class summaries and see, oh, this assignment is due. They worked on this in class. Here's what was learned. Let's work on that vocabulary with the student. Let's make sure that assignment gets done today when we have the time in study hall. Like, you don't have to be in the loop anymore if they can access that class summary directly, right? And so things like that seem appropriate to let other staff at the building have
Right.
access to when it's related to a specific student that they're looking at, not a classroom evaluation, right? But a
Hmm.
specific
Right.
student and a record of that student's behavior.
I could see where a teacher would be concerned that like the principal was sneaking in behind them to see what they're actually doing. So that's good that it's protected that way. But you mentioned another thing is with ESE students, wouldn't it be much better to go into an IEP meeting with actionable data other than,
Hmm.
us trying to piece things together? We try really hard, but oftentimes when we look at things, we miss things and this, that, and the other. But Socrate would offer actionable data that whenever we walk into an IEP meeting, we can say, okay, based upon this data, we need to make these changes, or we need to make this the goal, or we need to work on these things. So it's absolutely incredible. So I'm wondering, do you have anything for us to look at? Do you have any actionable things there where it's
Yeah. So
actually being used?
I'm gonna pull up an example class because I'm not gonna
Okay.
pull up my actual students here. But I'm gonna pull up an example class, so let me
Hmm.
share my screen, and, this is one just a kind of a fake class I taught a couple of days ago, what you can see here on the screen, of course, it's a small class, it was like a 3-minute teaching experience, okay?
Hmm.
You can see, like, who's present and absent in attendance. This is just data we get from your voice as you talk to students or mention that students are absent out loud. You can see who is warned and praised in this little
Hmm.
experience here. We can see the class summary from the experience. So, a reading quiz was moved. Character students need to write a character motivation paragraph for the next class. Talked about what happened in class that day, and then the content that was taught. Again, it was a very short class. It was a very short summary.
Right. Right.
But this is the type of data you get out of Socrate. And then below that, you can see that there you could write a message about warnings from Emily. Emily was warned 3 times in this class. So I can draft that message. And then, so this is where it anonymizes the name, sends it to the LLM, brings it back. So let's take a look at that message. I wanted to inform you about some recent challenges Emily has been having with staying focused and following classroom expectations.
That is incredible.
There have been instances where Emily was distracted by interactions with a classmate and needed reminders to keep their hands to themselves. Additionally, Emily was asked to take their seat promptly when the bell rang, but needed encouragement to do so. And then there's the suggestions, right? These
Right.
behaviors can disrupt the learning environment, make it harder for Emily and and their classmates to concentrate. It'd be helpful if you could talk to Emily about the importance of staying focused during lessons and following classroom routines promptly. Together, we can support Emily in developing better self-regulation and respect for classroom rules. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have written an email that good out of my memory.
So I would not have written an email that well. I probably would have started it out by saying, "Hey, you know what? You need to do a better job parenting at home because your kid is really messing up my class, right?"
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you think about being called to the principal's office. That's exactly where I would end up because it's true. Our frustrations get into our emails sometimes as
Yes.
much as we want to keep them out. Okay. Again, this is not one way or the other. This is what happened.
This is what
in
happened.
the
Yeah.
class.
And in fact, we have a little data log here. We probably won't surface it forever, but we surface it right now because we're new
Uh-huh.
and we want to make sure that you can see exactly what you said. But this
There's
is
Emily.
when I say we're collecting data from your voice, this is the data we're collecting. We're collecting exactly the phrases that you said related to that student. And so even when you mention multiple students, like that first warning I gave was Emily and Drew, I need you to focus on the lesson, not each other, hands to yourself. That actually shows up as a warning for Emily and a warning for Drew in the data logs, right? And so we're just grabbing the data from your voice, but you can see how you said it to the student, but that's
Uh-huh.
not what goes into the message. The message is very
Absolutely.
neutral, but it has the facts, right?
Absolutely.
It has the facts of what happened.
So a teacher, okay, because one of the things that we all struggle with as teachers is parent communication because there's just no time.
There's no time.
And it's not an excuse. It's just that there isn't really enough time, number one. And two, what happens in first period is not necessarily my thoughts in seventh period. And I forget about things.
Oh, we forget everything.
So
No human was designed to remember this much data.
right. So literally 10 minutes a day at your laptop sending emails could make the difference
Yes.
in the way that your class is running, because now you've activated your what I think is the best resource, which is the parent. And I know that not all parents hold their kids accountable. Some are kind of slack in that area, but the vast majority, they do want their kids to behave. They do want their kids to do well. And this is a communication device without the emotion that says this is what happened. That changes, in my opinion, that changes everything. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. It's
So
incredible. And when I say that the data has your back, or when you think about like evaluation cycles for teachers, right now, when your principal comes to like watch your class, they may get a good class, they may get a class that has some chaos in it. Just depends on how the students are feeling that day and what the topic is when they come, right? So like I'll just give you an example from this week. Our administrators were walking around the school this week to do just little check-ins to classrooms to see how things were going. And it was a block day for me, which means we were doing simulations and labs in class.
right.
So we were doing a simulation of generators syncing on the power grid. I had middle schoolers in a circle. They were trying to sync up, passing something to each other like the generators do at 60 hertz. It was complete chaos. Like they did not have the hang of it yet. That is, of course, the moment the principal stopped by my room.
Of course it is.
Right?
Yeah, because they're standing outside the door and they're like, okay, it's all messed up. Let's
They're
get
like,
in
this
there.
class is really loud. What is going on here? We are unsynced generators right now. Of course,
I'm
like
convinced
it's
that's
like
the way it happens too.
not, but they're out of their seats. They're doing something fun. So like, that's a positive, right?
Right.
But the interesting thing is when I looked at that Socrate summary from that 90 minutes of class, because it was a block day, it showed that like one of the class activities that day was pretending to be generators and syncing and the difficulties the class had with that.
Right.
But it also shows what we did before that, after that, like all of the content that was taught that day. And so like at the end of the day, I actually just copied that summary and sent it to the principal. And I was like, by the way, if you want to know what else we did besides chaos in class today, here was my summary of the teaching day, right? Imagine how much better your evaluations are.
Absolutely.
If you could actually submit, and this is your choice, right?
Yes.
You could copy all of your summaries from that unit or that week's lessons and say, this is what you came on Tuesday. This is how it fits in what I did all week. That's no work for you. Just copy and paste into a document, right? And that's a more complete picture of teaching than the 45 minutes they showed up to observe.
Or the 30 minutes. So our district started doing these things. I think they call them learning walks, and the district people come over.
That
and
is exactly what was happening on Thursday.
They go with the
learning
principal
walks.
and the assistant principal, and they have a checklist of like 9 things that they're looking for.
I'm sure they saw none of those.
Well, they didn't. They were going into classrooms and they were evaluating. We didn't see this, we didn't see that. And they're not being critical. Okay, they're just there to do a thing. And it's not evaluative at all, but there's certain things that you're looking for. And the complaint from the teachers was this: I did that in the beginning of class. You
Exactly.
came in 2/3 of the way through, and yet you're marking us down. If this existed in every classroom in my district, first of all, they wouldn't have to come through. They could
Exactly.
save all that time. They wouldn't even have to be there. A teacher could simply get the recap on this day, on this hour. This is what happened. That data goes immediately to the district. They saved, well, they overpay those guys at every district, but that's another story. They save the amount of time that it takes for them to go around to all the schools, which I think is about 13 or 14 schools. Plus, they have actionable data
Yeah.
that they can actually work with. It's not subjective at
Yeah.
all. You can look at it and see it.
Yeah. Now,
That
I
is,
think there's one really key important thing to say here, and I just want to say it out loud. I think it's still the teacher's choice to share their data.
yes, it has to be.
Right? I think it
Yeah.
has to be. And I think that a teacher would like make a choice in the platform to say, yes, I want to share my class summaries with the special
Hmm.
ed department, things like that. Right.
Right.
I think that this is the teacher's data. It is their voice that's being collected and it is their work. And every once in a while, I encounter like an administrator or a principal who said, no, this is absolutely my data. And I say, okay, then you're okay with every teacher at your school seeing every email you've ever sent to a parent 100% of the
Right.
time in real time, right? They're like, well, of
Right.
course not. I'm like, then you're asking teachers to do that, and that's not fair either.
Right.
But I think that in teachers who use this at the schools that we are fully deployed at, the data has your back. And the beautiful thing is that at the end of the day, if you are tired, if it was an exhausting day, like when we teach block days, we sometimes have no prep breaks, right? You can just walk out the door at the end of the day knowing the data is there, it's been collected, and you can deal with it tomorrow.
You can come back to it
You
later
can come
when
back
you're,
to it tomorrow. Tomorrow you don't have to try to remember everything that was in your head, which is what you're trying to do at the end of the day
yes,
when you're tired, right?
you can come
You can
back
come back to
fresh.
it tomorrow. I can send the email tomorrow. I can include the data from several days if I want to
Hmm.
about, the student's behavior. It's
Absolutely.
all there. The
It
record
is.
is there.
It is 100% my contention that when the teacher begins to feel burned out, the very first thing they'll do is try to work harder. All right. And then they can't. And then guilt sets in.
Yep.
And then they find themselves isolated and disassociated. It's our contention here at Teacher Talk that the best thing that you could give to your principal, to your district, and most of all, your students is the healthiest and freshest version of yourself possible. And if I understand correctly, you have conducted some focus groups, maybe some beta
Hmm.
testing, and you've got some results. And I tell you what, I think our teachers need to hear the results. One, it's great that they've already heard this because I can hear the objections. Does it have my back? It absolutely has your back. But what are teachers saying? What do they say about it?
Let me actually pause just for a second and pull
Mhm.
up our focus group data from the spring and read you some of what they say.
Okay, so for everybody that's watching, all right, you are going to get real world live data, not just Dr. Anderson's opinion or what you may think is a sales pitch or anything like that, but this is the real deal. This is how it works.
So, here are some data just around like improving student behavior with Socrate. We were actually shocked in the spring. We allowed teachers to use it. We were like really a baby company at that point.
Mhm.
We allowed teachers to use Socrate in one class for about 4 weeks. And here's a comment. Here's a couple comments from teachers. I do Socrate with one of my two eighth grade classes, and they're night and day now. The students that are in the class with Socrate know I'm wearing the mic, and I'll make a point of it, like, oh, I've got to go get my phone and do this. They know they're being monitored. Another comment, my hardest to manage class has improved somewhat as they were shocked by the tallies of their own behavior at the end of the day. Another one, with this is totally a teacher comment. My 31 person class is insane, but with Socrate, it's like I'm armed. They know that I'll know what happened at the end of the day, right? So we saw impacts to like the behavior change of classes in as little as 4 weeks, which was really surprising. But teachers also started to notice their individual reactions or individual interactions with students.
Mhm.
Here's some more comments from teachers. It really helps me to see who I'm ignoring. And I really need to know that kids who are quiet, and it's helping me address those kids the next day. I'm a different teacher. I'm more conscientious now. I'm actually more present with them. I can
Hmm.
say, there's some quotes about students. I'm not going to read those because they have student names in them.
Hmm.
It is actually making me be more present in the classroom and less of a victim to the
Right.
class.
That's good right there.
I was able to nip an unwanted behavior in the bud with the data I was provided. Socrate even gave me a sample email to send to parents with information from what really happened in class. I would never have been able to retain that information myself. I think just using Socrate reminds me to vocalize my praises more. One of my favorite features is the ability to use it to reward students more frequently, shifting the focus away from just calling out misbehavior. It supports a more positive classroom culture overall.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And then, here's one from a teacher talking about Socrate having their back. I had a student whose parent was saying I was being unfair to them. And
Mm.
I was like, I feel like your student just does more behaviors than the other students, and that's why they're getting called out more. And, the parent was complaining. So I went back into the system and looked, and I was like, yeah, well, this most kids got 2 warnings, this kid got 9 warnings. I'm not crazy.
Right. You're not crazy.
This is actually happening in the classroom. I'm not
Absolutely.
overcorrecting, I'm not giving too much attention. That kid is just acting out more than other kids. And so, again, like, the teachers who are using this quickly realize what it is doing for them. You don't have to send parent emails every day. You don't have to even look at the data every day. But when you're
Mhm.
ready to do something, the data is all there for you to
It's
do
all there
something
for
with.
you.
And I think that's super important.
So, in the classroom, the student connection and relationship, I think it's the number one piece of leverage that the teacher has. And so when your interactions are positive and they're good, obviously that has a benefit, and obviously negative interactions have a negative effect on the class. But sometimes as teachers, we don't realize how many negative interactions that we have. And so whenever we see that, it kind of confronts us as a teacher. And that's not a negative thing. That's extraordinarily positive, because the reflective process is how we grow and how we become better teachers. So I can see how sitting down at the end of the day and, just for a lack of better words, thinking to myself, I said that to Johnny. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And think about how that might have affected that young student and
But
how I
you
can phrase things better.
but you know what's interesting? When somebody else is collecting the data for you, when the system is collecting the data for you, you don't escalate in your warning voice tone and wording as
Mhm.
much as you do when you're trying to remember it all.
That's right.
When you're trying to remember it all, then every warning is more exhausting than the last. When I'm letting a system record it for
Mm,
me, record is not the right word to use here. When I'm letting a system collect it for me,
right.
I don't actually escalate my wording and tone as much. 'Cause I'm not having to think, "Is this the 3rd time? Is this the 4th time? Is this the 5th time?" I'm letting the system collect it, and I'm just having a normal warning interaction with the kid and moving right on. I don't
Absolutely.
have to stop what I'm doing and write it down. I don't have to stop what I'm doing and have a consequence right then. I just let my consequences happen at the end of class. If I suspect a student has reached enough warnings for a consequence, I'll say,
Mhm.
"Come over here. Let's look at how many warnings you had today." And I pull up the system at the end, and we look, and they go, "Oh,
Right.
I didn't do that many." I'm like,
Right. There's
It's
there's the
right here." And I can even open the little data log and say,
yeah.
"Here's what I said to you. Is that
There's
not what I
there's
said to
the
you?"
there's
And
the
they'll be
data
like,
chat that they want us to do all the time.
"Oh, I really did do it that
Yeah.
many times." And we'll have a little
See?
talk about, like,
Yeah.
what's appropriate classroom behavior. It's really
And
effective.
you can take all the
Yeah.
emotion out of it.
You can take all the
So
emotion out of it. Yeah.
as we try to land a plane, a minute ago you mentioned how people could get in contact with Socrate, and everything's going to be in the description box for teachers. But I wonder if you could just tell us again, how would a teacher get started here? And then I have one more question. It's the big one.
Sure. So a teacher can get started by going to socrate.com. It's SOCRAIT, and click on try it. And then they can go ahead and set up a class, download the app. We use a phone app to do the streaming of your class. We are not saving data on your phone. So we're just using it as a device that's not used already in the classroom.
Right,
Because
right.
honestly, every device you have in the classroom is already being overused, and we needed
Absolutely.
one that wasn't in use, right?
Including the
So
teacher.
including the teacher, yeah. So your phone is not already in use in the classroom. So you use your phone as a mic, essentially. If you'd like, we'll send you a little free phone pouch to put it in to carry it around your neck.
Right.
So you use the phone app just to stream your class. You just press start at the beginning of class and stop at the end of class. That is all. That is the lift. Okay. And then the data is available to you on your desktop, on your browser. So you just log in from your browser, your school computer, you see all your data there where it's appropriate to see student data, right? So you can get started right away. Pick a class to use it with. You can use it every
Mhm.
day in that class, start collecting the data for that class, see how it helps you. And then when you're ready to, when you realize you want it in all of your classes, go talk to your principal about getting a demo. We have, Socrate School, which will then work in all of your classes throughout the day, get you the data for everything. But we need your school to sign on for that because it's actually a
Yeah.
little expensive to do this, and we can't just give it all away for free. So
So, Doc, there's a teacher, they're driving home today. They're on the edge of burnout. They're ready to walk out of the classroom. They're ready to give up. What's an encouragement that you want to leave every teacher in America with? Can you speak directly to our teachers?
absolutely, if you're feeling burnout in the classroom, you can get to the other side of it. But something has to change. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting something different to happen. For me, it was starting to use Socrate. When we created it and I started using it in the classroom, I realized how much of that burnout was just data exhaustion. And I am now much more able to be present with my students, to laugh with my students, and to enjoy my day.
Mm,
On days that I'm tired, to just walk out of the building at the end and know that I can deal with the behaviors and the things I need to follow up on tomorrow because the data is there for me. Um, you can teach with a calmer mind, and teaching with a calmer mind makes a huge difference in how you feel at the end of the day. The teaching day is still exhausting. I am still exhausted by middle schoolers.
I bet.
I still cherish when I can get them to be quiet for 15 minutes and focus
Oh,
on work, like, it's a
right.
little miracle, right? But I don't feel the same sense of hopelessness that I used to about this.
Mm,
It does become a job where when somebody says, "Well, we would do something if only you would provide me the data." You have the
mm,
data.
that's right.
You're not in a cycle anymore that is impossible to escape.
I
Give
agree
it a
with that.
try. We are doing our
Absolutely.
absolute best to deliver you a very safe product that has your back, that helps you to manage the workload. We just need teachers to go out and try it because we won't have a sustainable company without that.
Right. This is absolutely phenomenal. I am an AI fan in every way. Uh, but this is unbelievable. Our goal at Teacher Talk is to restore joy to the classroom, one teacher at a time, because we just don't think teaching ought to be this hard. We know it's hard. It's always been hard. It's always going to be hard, but it doesn't have to be this hard. And Socrate is, I believe, on the leading edge of making that reality real. Joy back in the classroom. Doc, thank you so much for coming on. We
Yeah.
sure do appreciate you. And I look forward to hearing from you again and seeing how Socrate goes through our district, I hope, and how it goes through the teaching industry because it is truly revolutionizing. It's a revolutionary product that's going to revolutionize the way that we teach, but more importantly, the way we feel. And so we say to our teachers today to stay strong and keep teaching.